Arkham fans. So, the Forgotten Age has come in for a while, and I thought about getting it, and finally picked it up. So, here's the new format for Arkham Horror, the living card game. The old method of blister packs is gone, and now we just have the two boxes for the Forgotten Age. Plus, we also have the Return to Forgotten Age, but that'll be covered in a later video. So, the Forgotten Age. For those of you that don't know, this is probably the most brutal and most difficult scenario that new players get into. And this was my second scenario I actually played. So when I got into Arkham Horror, the Forgotten Age was in the middle of the campaign. And Dunwich, I couldn't get all of it, so I had to wait a while, so I started the Forgotten Age in the meantime. And yeah, this is a rude awakening for Dunwich straight to the Forgotten Age and skipping Carcosa. But that being said, I still think the Forgotten Age is one of the best scenarios in Arkham Horror. And honestly, it has to do with choices. Most of the time in Arkham Horror, your choices don't really matter that much. You're still going to basically go down the same campaign. It's going to change some objectives. The Forgotten Age actually changes the story. It is the first one of its type. I mean, Carcosa does too, but Carcosa really plays the same no matter what. So, that's why I really love the Forgotten Age. And I still think it is one of the better designed scenarios in the game, or campaigns. So with that, let's get to the Forgotten Age core box. So, I really like the new format. I really didn't think that Fantasy Flight was going to go towards this format years ago, just because Fantasy Flight has a bad habit of releasing things in a terrible manner. So, we have our campaign book. So, there's going to be some new rules, mainly supplies, and those are going to have a huge effect on the story. So, those are actually offer a lot of variety and replayability. We have the Vengeance mechanic, which is basically like XP. It will go in the victory display, but it's usually a punishment clause. So because of that, a lot of people focus on evading, and I'll get to how that system works. And then we have the Explore mechanic, and that's probably the most hated mechanic in this game because everyone says it's super punishing. The Return to Forgotten Age fixed it, kind of. I'm not going to say it makes it a lot better. It makes it easier in the beginning, so it kind of eases you into the system of how the Explore mechanic works. And I kind of like the newer format, but I know a lot of people like the older format. And that's an optional thing. One of the great things about Arkham Horror is you can kind of play this game however you want to play it. And, you know, it's up to you to decide if you want to play it the way it was designed or not. The campaign is also really punishing. Oh, alert's a new keyword too. It's basically retaliate, except for evading. But the campaign also has some really harsh tokens. This campaign also loves to give out trauma like candy, and that's why everyone thinks it's really punishing. And there are spoilers that there is one item that will save you a lot of heartache in the supply pool that I recommend everyone takes. It is a technically 8-part campaign with a secret 9th ending, which is really cool. We got a prologue. Here is our supply list, and this will actually tell you the points cost of how much it costs per supply item. So your investigators, 1 investigator gets 10 supplies, 2 investigators 7 supplies each, 3 investigators get 5 supplies each, and 4 investigators get 4 supplies each. Makes it really hard because you can't run with all of them. That's a really cool story. But there is a secret 9th ending. And if you can pull it off, it is very difficult to pull off, and it's also very hard to get. So, here we have our campaign notes. We have Yig's Fury, which is basically going to be the Vengeance. Killed Insane Investigators, and our breakdown, and of course our handy-dandy investigator slots. On the back, we got our quick reference, and our encounter card sets. So, from the core set, you're going to use Agents of Yogg-Sothoth, Chilling Cold, Blocked Door, Striking Fear. Ancient Evils, of course, because that has to be in every campaign. Dark Cult, Night Gaunts, and Midnight Mass. This is a really cool campaign because it is globetrotting, and surprisingly, you get to actually be in Arkham. For a game called Arkham Horror, you're not in Arkham a lot in this game. So So here are our scenarios. And then we have our super secret do not open pack, which I can tell you right now, nothing in here is new. Nothing is different from the original Forgotten Age if you have it. I just like getting a second copy of Forgotten Age because I love these books and I love the boxes. So, yeah. Probably not the best investment. But I've been giving hints what this is, so. So we have the Untamed Wilds, which is the first scenario. It's a pretty straightforward scenario. It's really basic and explains kind of how the mechanic of Explored everything's going to go. And that's one of my reasons I like this campaign. But it's also a lot of path choices. And it is random. There are some randomizers for locations. But overall, goal isn't that different. Let's see. Next will be... the Doom of the Etsy. This is a really cool scenario. A lot of Indiana Jones Temple of Doom vibes. I actually really like this scenario too. And if you can pull it off, you might come back here. But it's a fun scenario. And I think it's actually really well done. I actually enjoy this scenario a lot. Threads of Fate? Yes, Threads of Fate. Threads of Fate's a really cool scenario. You go back to Arkham, and it is a multi-path branching scenario. It actually has 3 agendas, and it's just really neat that you're kind of running around Arkham doing 3 different quests at the same time, and you're trying to do as many as you can. If you can pull off all of them, really cool, but not required. And it can be really difficult just because of Doom. But it is a fun scenario, and it shows a lot of cool new places in Arkham. I actually really like this scenario just because there's a lot of story choices in where you want to go. And in the Return to, it adds a 4th, so it gets pretty big. But this is a really, really cool scenario. And I was actually amazed that Fantasy Flight doesn't do this mechanic more, because I really like this. Next we have the Boundary Beyond. This is considered not a great scenario. And like all Arkham campaigns, you're going to run into good and bad, a mix of good and bad. The scenario is very, very frustrating and is very difficult. On the plus side, because of Arkham's fail forward mechanic, and that's one nice thing about the Forgotten Age, you really don't die. Like, there's no auto kill until about the 6th campaign, I believe. Because I failed a lot of Forgotten Age. But the Boundary Beyond is very frustrating, and this can leave a bad taste in your mouth. There's a lot of experimental stuff in this campaign, and that's the reason I like it. They kind of went everywhere. Some people think things are incoherent in the story. But this is a really interesting campaign. It is swingy, but most of the time, the larger your group, the more difficult it gets, I've learned. Then we have the Heart of the Elders. This campaign is really weird. So, in the core, the original, not Return to Forgotten Age, this campaign has a weird Twilight Zone mechanic where you gotta keep on doing it until you actually pass the first part. And then it goes on to the second part, which is it's still Heart of the Elders, but it's really weird. It's a 2-part thing, but the first part's really frustrating. There is a way to get past it better with the Return to rules, and I will post those if people are interested in actually reading up and seeing how that goes. But Heart of the Elders is very grindy. Until you actually get past the first part, it's going to make you do it over and over and over, and it gets frustrating. It gets easier every time you do it, but it just makes the game run long. The second part, I actually enjoy, but the first part, it's just not great. I get what they were trying to do, but it's just not great, in my opinion. Now, the City Archives, I love this campaign. This campaign is really neat. Some people say it just kind of comes out of the middle of nowhere, and story-wise, it kind of does. But it's a really, really cool spin on the game. It's actually something that I was completely blown away by, and I was really impressed by how it works. Just because it is so different and literally alien from what you've been doing in the Forgotten Age. One of the interesting things about it, and it's part of spoiler territory, is if you fail, you don't die, but something bad happens. So a lot of people, and it gives you that, it's going to tell you what you need to do to get the best possible outcome. So I highly encourage you guys to play through that and do it. But this is a very fun and different twist. Some people don't like it just because they think the punishment's a little harsh. And granted, it kind of is harsh. But it's such a different environment and world, and the storytelling's a little nuanced to why this is here. But it is a cool campaign, and I encourage you guys to play this with a little bit of an open mind, because, again, the Forgotten Age is brutally difficult. It is a slow, death by 1,000 cuts campaign. So, you still can't die here either, as I recall. And then we have the Depths of Yoths. This is an interesting mechanic, mainly because you're trying to get down the depths, which is basically like, well, the best way to describe it is a Tomb of Giants from Dark Souls. It's pretty much what you're doing. You just keep on going down until you either escape or you fall and you might die. That's pretty much how the Depths of Yoth work, and that's what this right here, the current depth level is. The lower you get, the better, but this is very hard. The Depths of Yoth is also going to have critical supply moments. This also has, well, I'm not going to say it, but it has a thing in there I have never had to deal with, just because usually I try to escape this. But this is a fun, very fighty, very run-for-your-life scenario, and it gets very difficult with more people. Like most of the campaign games, the more people you get, the harder it gets. And then we have, last but not least, the Shattered Aeons. This is a very, very difficult finale to the Forgotten Age. I find it entertaining at times and just frustrating at times, and it really has to do with how well you're doing and how beat up you are with trauma. Shattered Aeons is brutal. It is hard, like most of the endgame campaigns. It is very difficult. It's not unfair, though. I have pulled this off, winning this multiple times, just never getting the last scenario. And the last scenario is a secret that has a bunch of requirements that you have to do. And I have never actually pulled off the requirements for the Depths of Yoth. Or not the Depths of Yoth, for Shattered Aeons to get the end. Because everything you do from the beginning all the way to the Shattered Aeons is going to influence how you're going to get the secret ending. So because of that, it's very difficult to pull off. So, one of the new things they added was a thing called poison. As you can see, it's actually a pretty weak treachery. It is permanent, and what poison does is bad things happen to you. If you're poisoned, more bad things happen to you. There are a few things in here that if you're poisoned, it doesn't do anything. But this is also very, very difficult to get rid of. And that's one of the things that drives people nuts, is because there's a lot of things that will give you poison. So, a lot of people don't like that mechanic. I don't find it too bad. And then we have the Curse of Yig here as a treachery. This is a very weird treachery because it really doesn't hurt you that much. It does -1 attack and 1 health, and you gain the Serpent trait. I'm going to give the spoiler of, I've never really seen the Serpent trait affect anything. I can't even remember if the return to it affected anything. But it's fairly easy to get rid of. But mainly if you're poisoned, bad things. Like I said, it just makes things harder. We have the Etsy Guardians. These guys are a tribe of natives you're going to run into. They're kind of annoying. They have 4 fight, 2 health. So, kind of standard. Their evade values too. You don't see these guys a lot, by the way. Arrows from the tree is the same thing. This is another terrible auto-kill an ally. So, the treacheries are a little harsh. Final mistake here, just take damage. It's not too bad. And this doesn't come up too much either. Entombed, I think this one just prevents you from moving. Yeah, cannot disengage from enemies or move. Don't see that a lot. A Tear in Time. So this could be a really terrible treachery just because it's losing you actions or taking horror. And this is part of the set that actually takes a lot of work to get rid of. As I recall, yeah, Temporal Flux. The Temporal Flux sucks. This encounter set is just terrible. Lost in Time is another one. Just because it slows down your progression by a lot. Ill Omens. Yeah, it just places doom. It's a peril. It kind of sucks, but it's not too bad. Ancestral Fear. Another doom, and this is an automatic vengeance in the display just because you can't do anything about it. It has Surge, so that kind of sucks. Deep Dark. Deep Dark just slows you down because you can't more than one clue out per agenda deck. The Cultists, you don't see these guys too, well, you can. It really depends on your store choice. And this set, the Cultist set, which is Panoptic Brotherhood, they get really annoying. Shadowed just gets more cultists and does annoying stuff. Words of Power. Yeah, it just dumps doom everywhere, which is part of the cultist mechanic. And the cultists are, it's one of the things that makes that one scenario just awful. And Boundary Beyond is full of cultists, and so is the Threads of Fate. Fang of Yig. So Yig's really interesting. He doesn't really care for his children, but he loves his snake children. So, and I say this as in this humanoid serpent does not have any vengeance. So you can kill these guys all you want. It's kind of weird. He only cares about the little snakes, the non-humanoid snakes. We have Snake Scourge. The Snake Scourge in play. If you're poisoned, it gains Surge. This is back to how poison really screws with you in the game. Serpent's Call. There's only one of these, and this is actually a really bad one. You must either choose one, put aside poison weakness and play in your threat area, or draw the top 2 cards of the encounter back. Then we have Creeping Poison. Each investigator's poison takes 1 damage, gains Surge, so does nothing if you're not poisoned. We have the Brood of Yig here. These guys I think were annoying. Yep. These guys are really, really annoying. So when they die, they go to the victory display. They're not worth anything. They're not even worth vengeance. But they do come back, and that's what makes them annoying. They come back from the victory display. The Serpent of Yoth. This guy is a jerk. I hate this guy. He just is notorious and just hunts you down. He's really annoying. He's not as bad as the other one. But he gets more powerful with the more vengeance in the victory display. Snakebite, this is one. So the Forgotten Age, you kind of want allies. The jungle is a very, very bad place, and bad things will happen to you, so your allies are better off taking the punishment than you are. And this will basically kill most allies. I don't know of any allies that have 5 or more health. Or 6 health. I don't even know if you can get an ally to 6 health, but yeah. This card sucks. Because if you don't have an ally, you get poisoned. Lost in the Woods. This is a card that slows you down a lot. You can't move or explore when it triggers. A lot of people hate it, and that's one of the reasons people hate the Explore deck. Low on supplies. This is another one that hurts you because it just takes away your resources. Now here we get to the weird vengeance mechanic with Yig. So a lot of Yig's snakes have vengeance on them. And they're awful. Like this Pit Viper, if it attacks you, you're not poisoned, you become poisoned. Vengeance 1 if you kill him. And then we have the Boa Constrictor. This thing is just annoying, and if you kill that, that's 2 vengeance, but it's annoying, so, you know, it's kind of a trade-off. I don't remember the exact amount of vengeance you can kind of get away without bad things triggering, but it's kind of low as I recall. And then here we have our locations, and specific like the overgrowth and the voice of the jungle. These are annoying, but not too bad. These locations are going to be used, not a lot, but they're kind of interesting. And as you can see, they don't have a reverse side because these are part of the Explore deck. This is what you're dumping into a deck with these exploration cards, and that's why it takes forever to find things and why people are like, this is really hard and frustrating. So these are the 5 investigators that come in the Forgotten Age. This, of course, is part of the Investigator Core box, not the campaign box, so don't make a mistake you're thinking that. By buying the campaign box that you're going to get the investigators. So Ursula's really, really strong. She's probably one of the better Seekers in the game. I actually like her ability a lot, and I've played Ursula a lot. She's really cool too if you're a single-hand solo player or a two-handed player. She helps a lot, immensely, really, just because of her action compression. And her action compression is what makes her really good. Her stats are also really good. We have Leo Anderson. Gives me a lot of Indiana Jones vibes, more than Monterey Jack. But he has a very interesting card pool just because he wants to put allies out, but he's also a rogue. So he actually has the efficiency to do that. Then we have Finn Edwards, my favorite rogue. He's probably my favorite character in the game, actually. And he plays so well in the Forgotten Age. He plays well in a lot of campaigns. And honestly, they've been building cards towards making him even more efficient. So I really like Finn. Calvin's a really interesting character. He uses, like, his stats are all 0. He uses trauma to boost his stats, so he likes trauma. The problem with Calvin is he's kind of hard to play if you're not willing to risk all to win all. He does have things that offset dying from trauma, like his unique till the end of time, but you have to get that, and that's kind of hard and iffy. But he's a fun character and has some really interesting quirks you can play, especially with the spirit cards. Father Mateo I have never tried, mainly because I just don't care for his ability. Like, his Elder Sign ability is really strong. It's super strong, but I don't like the sealing away the Elder Sign. I don't like that at all. I also don't like his card pool. It's just straight mystics. I don't think his ability is worth it. His stat also for having 4 brain isn't worth it for being a mystic. So that's why I haven't played Father Mateo. But Finn, Leo, Ursula, and Calvin I have all played. And honestly, Finn is my favorite. Next up, we have the new weaknesses. So here we have Doomed. This is a weakness, and all the weaknesses in here are campaign mode only, and there's a reason. This is probably by far one of the most hated weaknesses. I have never had it fully trigger and go off and kill me. But Doomed, campaign mode only, you take 1 horror in the campaign log when you reveal it. Under Investigator, earn story assets, weaknesses, you record Doom approaches. If this is already recorded, remove Doom from the deck and search your collection for a Cursed Fate and place it at the bottom of your deck. So, a Cursed Fate. You take 2 horror in your campaign log under your Investigator, earn story assets, weakness, record that the horror hour is nigh. If it is already recorded, remove a Cursed Fate from your deck, search your collection for the bell tolls, and place it at the bottom of your deck. And then we have the bell tolls. You just die. It just kills you. A lot of people hate this. It's hard to trigger because you have to do these twice each. I mean, yeah, it sucks you're taking a lot of horror. But I have never had the bell tolls trigger. I've been close, but I've never had it trigger. And I'm glad about that. Next we have Dark Pact. So campaign mode only. Deal 2 damage to Investigator location. Forced. When the game ends and you are eliminated, if Dark Pact is still in your hand, remove Dark Pact from the deck and search your collection for a Price of Failure and add it to your deck. A lot of people don't like this because it makes you stab other people. And I get it. And then we have the Price of Failure. Take 2 damage and 2 horror. Place 1 Doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. Remove the Price of Failure from your deck. Search a collection for Dark Pact and place it in your discard pile. So these two just constantly come back and forth. They are just really, really annoying. But that is the Investigators for the Forgotten Age. Like I said, They don't come in the campaign box. I just have them out here because it's part of the Forgotten Age Together. You do get your standard decent amount of cards. Pretty good amount. And you get more Mystic cards than anything else. But I will break these down in separate videos of each investigator. And I will probably start with Leo Anderson first. Other than that, if you like what I'm doing and you got this far, consider subscribing. Leave me any comments and tell me if I missed anything, or tell me what you like or dislike about the Forgotten Age, or what you disagree with me about, because this is a very controversial campaign. Other than that, take care, guys, and I'll be releasing more Arkham Horror content in the future.